What if I told you there's a book so controversial, so powerful that it was banned from the Bible? A book filled with secrets, hidden truths, and revelations that challenge everything we thought we knew about biblical history. This isn't just any book, it's the Book of Jubilees, an ancient text that has fascinated scholars, theologians, and seekers of truth for centuries. But why was it excluded from the Bible? Was it too radical, too revealing, or did it simply threaten the status quo? The Book of Jubilees, also known as the Lesser Genesis, offers a unique perspective on the stories of creation, the lives of the patriarchs, and the laws given to Moses. It's a text that dares to ask questions and provide answers that you won't find in your Sunday school lessons. But here's the catch. This book was deemed too dangerous, too controversial, to be included in the Bible. And today we're going to uncover why. By the end of this video, you'll understand the shocking reasons behind its exclusion and why this ancient text continues to captivate those who seek to uncover the hidden truths of the Bible. But before we get into all of that, if you love exploring the mysteries of Scripture and uncovering the untold stories of the Bible, hit the like button right now. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with anyone who loves diving into the depths of biblical history. Let's get started. To truly understand why the Book of Jubilees was banned, we first need to understand what it is and why it's so significant. The Book of Jubilees is an ancient Jewish text, often referred to as the Lesser Genesis or Little Genesis. But don't let the name fool you. This book is anything but small in its impact. Written around the 2nd century BCE, it offers a retelling of the stories found in Genesis and Exodus, but with a twist. It's not just a simple retelling, it's a reimagining filled with additional details, laws, and customs that you won't find in the canonical Bible. One of the most striking features of the Book of Jubilees is its structure. It divides time into periods of 49 years, known as Jubilee cycles. This unique framework gives the book its name and sets it apart from other biblical texts. But it's not just the structure that makes this book stand out. It's the content. The Book of Jubilees fills in gaps and provides alternative explanations for many of the stories we think we know so well. For example, it offers more details about the creation of Adam and Eve, the fall of the angels, and the lives of the patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It even attributes the observance of later Jewish laws and festivals to these early biblical figures, suggesting that these practices have a much older origin than previously thought. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While the Book of Jubilees was excluded from the mainstream biblical canon, it holds a place of honor in the Ethiopian Jewish and Christian traditions. For them, this book isn't just an ancient text, it's scripture. The complete text of the Book of Jubilees has been preserved in the Jewish language, the ancient liturgical language of Ethiopia, and it continues to be a vital part of their religious heritage. This raises an important question: why was this book accepted by some and rejected by others? What made it so controversial that it was left out of the Bible as we know it today? As we explore these questions, I want to hear from you. Have you ever wondered why some books were included in the Bible while others were left out? What do you think makes a text scriptures or canonical? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might just spark a fascinating discussion. Now that we've laid the foundation, let's dig deeper into the hidden truths and controversial elements of the Book of Jubilees. What made this book so radical that it was banned? Stay with me as we uncover the secrets that have been hidden for centuries. Let's dive into the heart of what makes this text so controversial, the hidden truths it contains. This isn't just a book that retells familiar biblical stories. It's a book that challenges, expands, and sometimes even contradicts the narratives we've come to accept. It's filled with what many have called forbidden knowledge, details, and explanations that were deemed too radical, too revealing, or too speculative to be included in the Bible. So what exactly does the Book of Jubilees reveal, and why was it considered so dangerous? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about the alternative explanations it provides for well-known biblical stories. Take the creation of Adam and Eve, for example. In the Book of Jubilees, We're given additional details about their creation, including the idea that Adam was created from dust, but Eve was formed from one of his ribs, a detail that aligns with Genesis. However, the Book of Jubilees goes further, describing how Adam and Eve were placed in the Garden of Eden and given specific instructions about what they could and couldn't do. But here's where it gets interesting. The book also introduces the concept of the fall of the angels, a story that's only briefly mentioned in the canonical Bible. According to the Book of Jubilees, a group of angels known as the Watchers descended to earth, took human wives and taught humanity forbidden knowledge, leading to widespread corruption and violence. This story not only adds depth to the biblical narrative but also raises questions about the nature of sin and divine judgment. But the Book of Jubilees doesn't stop there. It's also filled with mystical and apocalyptic elements that were considered too sensational for the mainstream biblical canon. The book contains vivid accounts of angels, demons, and cosmic warfare, painting a picture of a world where the spiritual realm is constantly at odds with the physical one. For example, it describes how the archangel Mastema, a figure often associated with Satan, petitions God to allow some of the fallen angels to remain on earth to tempt humanity. This kind of speculative content was seen as too extreme by many religious leaders, who preferred the more grounded narratives of the Hebrew Bible. Another controversial aspect of the Book of Jubilees is its rewriting of biblical narratives to attribute later Jewish laws and customs to the patriarchs. For instance, the book claims that Abraham observed laws and festivals that didn't exist until the time of Moses. This includes practices like the Sabbath, circumcision, and even the Feast of Weeks. By suggesting that these laws were known and followed by the patriarchs, the Book of Jubilees challenges the traditional understanding of the Mosaic Law as something that was revealed exclusively to Moses. This rewriting of history was seen as a direct challenge to the authority of the Torah and the established religious order. So why does all of this matter? Because these additions and reinterpretations don't just fill in gaps, they challenge the way we understand Scripture. They force us to ask difficult questions. What if there's more to the Bible than what we've been taught? What if some of the stories we take for granted have deeper, more complex meanings? And what if the Book of Jubilees was excluded not because it was false but because it was too truthful? This brings me to a question for you. If the Book of Jubilees were included in the Bible, do you think it would change how we understand Scripture? Would it deepen our faith, or would it create more confusion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. As we move forward, we'll explore the specific reasons why this book was banned and what its exclusion tells us about the history of the Bible. But one thing is clear. The Book of Jubilees is a text that refuses to be ignored, and its hidden truths continue to captivate those who seek to understand the full story of Scripture. Now we come to the central question: why was this book banned from the Bible? What was it about this ancient text that made religious leaders decide it didn't belong in the canon? The answer isn't simple, but it's deeply revealing. The exclusion of the Book of Jubilees wasn't just about one issue, it was about a combination of factors that made it too radical, too divisive, and too controversial for the mainstream. Let's break down the key reasons. First, let's talk about its alternative explanations of biblical stories. The Book of Jubilees doesn't just retell the stories of Genesis and Exodus, it reinterprets them, often in ways that challenge traditional understandings. For example, it provides additional details about the creation of Adam and Eve, the fall of the angels, and the lives of the patriarchs. While these details might seem fascinating to us today, they were seen as problematic by the religious authorities of the time. Why? Because they introduced ideas that weren't found in the accepted scriptures, creating confusion and raising questions about the accuracy of the biblical narrative. In a world where religious authority was closely tied to the integrity of Scripture, this kind of reinterpretation was seen as a threat. The second reason for its exclusion was its promotion of calendar reform. The Book of Jubilees advocates for a 364-day solar calendar, divided into 12 months of 30 days each, with an additional day added at the end of each season. This was a radical departure from the traditional Jewish lunar calendar, which was based on the cycles of the moon. The lunar calendar was deeply ingrained in Jewish religious practice, governing everything from the timing of festivals to the observance of the Sabbath. By proposing a solar calendar, the Book of Jubilees wasn't just suggesting a change, it was challenging the very foundation of Jewish religious life. This made it a source of contention and conflict, further solidifying its status as a controversial text. Another key factor was its sectarian nature. The Book of Jubilees reflects the views of specific Jewish groups, particularly the Essenes, a sect known for their strict adherence to religious laws and their apocalyptic worldview. While the Essenes saw the Book of Jubilees as a sacred text, the broader Jewish community viewed it as too exclusive and narrow in its focus. The book's alignment with a particular sect made it difficult to accept as part of a unified scriptural tradition. In other words, it was seen as catering to the interests of a specific group rather than the entire community, which made it unsuitable for inclusion in the canon. The fourth reason was its mystical content. The Book of Jubilees is filled with vivid accounts of angels, demons, and cosmic warfare, elements that were considered too speculative and sensational by many religious leaders. While these stories might captivate our imagination today, they were seen as a distraction from the more grounded and practical teachings of the Hebrew Bible. The book's focus on the spiritual realm and its dramatic depictions of divine intervention were viewed as unnecessary additions that detracted from the core message of Scripture. Finally, there's the issue of rewriting biblical narratives. The Book of Jubilees doesn't just add to the stories of Genesis and Exodus, it rewrites them, attributing later Jewish laws and customs to earlier biblical figures. For example, it claims that Abraham observed laws and festivals that weren't established until the time of Moses. This rewriting of history was seen as a direct challenge to the authority of the Torah and the established religious order. By suggesting that the patriarchs knew and followed laws that were supposedly revealed to Moses centuries later, the Book of Jubilees undermined the traditional understanding of the Mosaic law and its divine origin. So, what does all of this tell us? The exclusion of the Book of Jubilees wasn't just about one issue, it was about a combination of factors that made it too controversial for the mainstream. Its alternative explanations, calendar reform, sectarian nature, mystical content, and rewritten narratives all contributed to its status as a banned book. But here's the thing, while it was excluded from the canon, the Book of Jubilees wasn't forgotten. Its influence can still be seen in certain religious traditions, and its hidden truths continue to captivate those who seek to understand the full story of Scripture. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Book of Jubilees, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who loves exploring ancient texts. Your support helps us uncover more hidden truths and share them with the world. And don't forget to let me know in the comments, do you think the Book of Jubilees should have been included in the Bible, or was its exclusion justified? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay with me as we uncover the lasting impact of this ancient and controversial text. The Book of Jubilees may have been excluded from the mainstream biblical canon, but its influence and legacy have endured for centuries. This ancient text, once considered too controversial for inclusion, continues to shape religious thought, inspire scholarly debate, and captivate modern readers. So, what is it about the Book of Jubilees that keeps it relevant today? Let's explore its lasting impact and why it still matters. First, let's talk about its influence on early Jewish and Christian thought. The Book of Jubilees was written during a time of great religious and cultural upheaval, and its ideas reflect the concerns and aspirations of its era. For example, its emphasis on a 364-day solar calendar and its detailed retelling of biblical stories were likely attempts to address questions about time, history, and divine order. These ideas resonated with certain Jewish groups, particularly the Essenes, who saw the book as a guide for living in accordance with God's will. Similarly, early Christian writers were aware of the Book of Jubilees and drew on its themes and narratives in their own works. While it wasn't included in the Christian canon, its influence can be seen in the writings of the Church Fathers and in the development of Christian theology. But the Book of Jubilees isn't just a relic of the past, it's a living text for Ethiopian Jews and Christians. In the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, the Book of Jubilees is considered canonical, a sacred scripture that holds equal authority with the rest of the Bible. This unique acceptance highlights the diversity of religious traditions and reminds us that what's considered scripture can vary widely across cultures and communities. For Ethiopian Christians, the Book of Jubilees isn't just an ancient text, it's a vital part of their spiritual heritage, offering insights into the lives of the patriarchs, the nature of divine law, and the workings of the spiritual realm. So why are modern readers still fascinated by the Book of Jubilees? Part of its appeal lies in its hidden truths, the additional details, alternative explanations, and controversial ideas that challenge our understanding of Scripture. In a world where people are increasingly curious about the origins and meanings of religious texts, the Book of Jubilees offers a fresh perspective on familiar stories. It invites us to ask questions, explore new ideas, and consider the possibility that there's more to the Bible than what we've been taught. This sense of mystery and discovery is what makes the book so compelling, even today. But the Book of Jubilees also raises important questions about the nature of Scripture and the process of canonization. Why were some texts included in the Bible while others were left out? Who decided what was inspired and what was heretical? And should we reconsider the exclusion of books like the Book of Jubilees, or was their exclusion justified? These questions aren't just academic, they're deeply personal, touching on issues of faith, authority, and the search for truth. This brings me to a question for you. Do you think the Book of Jubilees should be included in the Bible today? Should its hidden truths be part of our understanding of Scripture, or was its exclusion the right decision? Let's discuss in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. As we conclude this exploration of the Book of Jubilees, one thing is clear: this ancient text is more than just a banned book. It's a window into the past, a source of inspiration, and a reminder that the search for truth is never-ending. Whether you see it as scripture, history, or simply a fascinating read, the Book of Jubilees invites us to think deeply about the stories we tell, the beliefs we hold, and the ways we understand the divine. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Book of Jubilees, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who loves exploring ancient texts. Your support helps us uncover more hidden truths and share them with the world. And as always, let me know in the comments, what other banned or controversial books would you like me to explore next? Until then, keep seeking truth, and I'll see you in the next video.